No, you don't.
Hello, one and all.
Mm.
And hello, Denise.
Hi, how are you?
I'm fine. I love you. I love Eric. And
Love
you
you.
are coming to do a group reading at my place, at our place, October 26th from
Yes.
7 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. You guys need to register. Facebook blocked me from putting links down, so I'll figure it out. But just go to the blog, channeling Eric. You know, keep up with that. Check it every day. Check my social media, and until I get out of Facebook jail on what is it, October the freaking 13th? This is the way it's going to be. All right. So I thought
Okay.
Eric and Denise that it would be fun to talk about disease. Oh God, to talk about some interesting and very misunderstood diseases. And one of the biggest ones, beside Morgellons disease, is Lyme disease. And a lot of blog members have questions about that and other things like Lou Gehrig's disease, you know, acute,
Mhm.
amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. Say that 15 times real fast, and you get a prize. There's a lot of people suffering out there with diseases like chronic fatigue syndrome, fibromyalgia, and it's no fun. So, Eric, I hope you can help them. You know,
He says yes, because he told me we were going to be talking about diseases prior
wow,
to yes. And I said, like what? And then of course my mind went to cancer and I said, well, we already discussed that. He goes, no, disease. So um
cool. You're so.
yeah.
Oh, by the way, I will say that at the event, there were so many people who came up to me and just praised you to the high heavens. I mean, God, they adore you, and you have helped so many of them. That's really cool.
Wow, thank you.
Um,
Wow.
I need to talk to you about something uh, for weekend after next. But anyway,
Okay.
I don't want to take you down that rabbit hole. What we will do is we will start asking questions.
Okay.
Here's one from a blog member, and I have not proofread these at all. Why do doctors seem to know so little? Well, they know so little, number one, but about chronic Lyme disease and how to treat it. What is it about that?
Well, Eric says it's he says, and this is Eric talking, he's saying, let's not, it's not fair to blame the doctors that they know so little about it because the doctors aren't doing the research.
Yeah, that's true.
And he says, so, what they do is they get the research and then they further it, and study it and go from there with what's been researched. This is what Eric is telling me. And he says, there just hasn't been a
A
lot of
lot of
emphasis
emphasis
put
put
on
on
um, Lyme
Lyme
disease,
disease.
even though it's because it hasn't been getting publicity, I guess you would say. But he says it is becoming more widely talked about because well-known people are starting to get Lyme disease.
Wow.
And
But
he said so, but he says so the reason why it doesn't get the doctors know so little is because the research.
I see. All right, so I've heard there's a question here about that a government experiment went awry, and they released, I don't know, ticks with in the northeast of the U.S. with Lyme disease, and that has caused this whole epidemic. Is that conspiracy theory true? Talk so I don't have to look at my face.
I know. So Eric, he's showing me situations going on, and he said, you know, animals carry diseases of their own too that just aren't
Yeah.
compatible with us.
Yes.
So he says, there's, um, he's just not saying, yes, that's 100% true. That is what he's telling me. He makes me feel like these ticks and stuff like that, it's like they carry, it's like
Endemic infection.
like they're venom or something, so we stay away from them. It's like protection or whatever. And when
It
he's
doesn't
saying
hurt
that,
the ticks. It doesn't hurt the ticks.
right, it doesn't hurt them at all. They're immune to it completely. And
Hmm.
I'm asking him, well, how about is this with dogs and stuff, the ticks and that? And he says it's really ticks like in certain areas. It's not like
Yeah.
ticks in my yard or something like that, but it's just ticks in certain areas. And I feel like how Erik is telling me that some of this is, there's something about with trees or something with that. So I don't know if
Spill it, Erik.
if
What's
it's
trees?
he's making me feel like it's something that like um something that they digest or something. I don't and when I'm asking, I said, well, they don't eat trees, they eat other things. I don't even know what ticks eat other than blood.
Blood.
So I just feel like it's something that they pick up in the wilderness is what he's showing me, and it's like from them crawling around and stuff like that is what he's showing me. And I'm asking him, is it true about the government doing this? Something, is there any
If
kind of
so,
truth
what
to it?
percent? If so, what percent?
He says he's telling me it's a small percentage. It's a small
Okay.
percentage, a
All
small
right.
percentage.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I feel like the way he's saying that is because they may have taken some in the labs and seen that
Yeah.
this does stuff or whatever. I guess I don't. That's what he makes me. That's
Okay.
what he's showing me.
They're saying, why is there not better testing for Lyme and all its co-infections? I will say that I love Zoom because I got this place. I'm cheating. That I can click to, like, and make my face look better, iron out the wrinkles. Yes, it's awesome. I love it. Okay, okay.
Good, do mine too.
Guys, you got it. You got it done. Done.
So, um, what was the question? I'm sorry.
God, I'm sorry. Why is there not better testing for Lyme disease and all of its co-infections?
Erik says because it's like the squeaky wheel. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. He says it's with that. He said he's showing me a president that had polio. Who was that?
Oh yeah,
Gosh.
uh, FDR.
Yes.
Yeah.
He says, it wasn't until somebody like him got polio that
Yeah.
they came up with a vaccine. And he says it's the same way, like if something comes up, then they start to do this. But he says they show it's almost like it's not enough to to do any further research. It's
There's probably not enough money in it. That is
well, there's not enough money, but it's like there's not enough yelling about what's happening,
yeah.
because people like me wouldn't be able to have a voice out there. But there's a singer he's showing me that has it,
Oh,
and she's bringing a voice
so that's why
to it.
more famous people.
Yes, and people don't realize how debilitating this is. He's showing me. He
Yeah.
says people just have no clue how debilitating this Lyme disease is,
It's
and
so.
he says it can be deadly too. He's telling me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I just got through studying something about Lyme disease. Of course, I completely forgot it. But um, so they say, and I actually didn't know this, that chronic Lyme disease is so expensive to treat. But I thought it was just, doxycycline for X month. But apparently it's so unattainable for most. And this person's asking why so many people have to spend their life savings and just go broke just trying to get a diagnosis, let alone proper treatment.
He says that's the pharma. That is the pharma right there. They know you need it, and so they can put a price on it, and because they know you'll purchase it.
Oh God. Because they, desperation sells,
Yes.
basically.
Yeah.
Is there a spiritual reason for people to contract and suffer from Lyme disease?
He says everything's spiritual. He's telling me.
Yeah, that's
Uh, um, some of it is you know for some, and I feel like for a good portion, it's to help bring awareness to this. And then another part of it is it's it's about teaching them to go inward. He's saying
mm,
it's almost like to go inward to find answers for them own selves,
like
because
what?
some of these
Interesting.
people that have gotten it have either, and this isn't for everyone, but he's showing me how dependent on other people for things,
Yeah,
or they just were not in touch with it within their own self. He says it's all about spiritual stuff, spirituality. And when spirituality doesn't mean in like God, Jesus, or whatever, he said it's about going within and knowing your own self. And he says, believe it or not, he says everybody can heal themselves from this if they wanted to, but it's about them believing in themselves, and just it's almost like they've got to know that their health and well-being doesn't depend on somebody else.
right. And they have the power.
Yes, absolutely, they
So
do.
much power. But I do hate to see patients suffer from
Well,
this.
he says there's a chronic fatigue with it.
Yes, yeah, chronic fatigue syndrome. But before we get into that,
Okay.
um, I forgot. I'm old. I forgot.
Me
No.
too.
Oh, wait. It's coming. It's coming. So I'm taking my tongue. Read it. Shit. It was really important too. God dang it. Oh yeah. So maybe part of it is humility. I mean, you had to depend on practitioners or the people, etc., because you're so tired and all that. And you have these other, this other symptomatology. So maybe it's a big lesson is I don't know.
He's saying that, he says you're right, Mom. He says there is something to do with that, and also too, he makes me feel like there's it's like a continuation of another life that's bleeding through, is to help you
Oh,
to continue your journey
mm,
about digging within and going, because he's saying these people that have this, there's so much, they have the abilities to teach people how to heal themselves through this.
oh, wow.
And this is, but he says, but the chronic, but he's telling me they get they have chronic fatigue with it. And I don't know much about Lyme disease other than it's just debilitating, but he's telling me the fatigue that comes with it, and then also there's depression that comes with it,
Yes.
because it's just totally wiped them out, and they just
Is the
um
depression something pathologically going wrong with the brain, or is it because they are so disabled from fatigue, or a little bit of both?
he says it's because they're so disabled
Mm.
from the fatigue, and just, and he showed me how, like, he's shown me, like, I guess it's your bones or muscles that ache from this, or
Yeah.
what.
Yes. Yes.
um Something happened, there you go, okay. So like your bones or muscles ache, he's having me feel like my that's hurting. um and it's just, he says it does, he goes, he's not minimizing, it takes a lot of effort every day to get somebody out of bed, and it also is about allowing somebody to help you, because you do need help.
Yeah. That's where the humility comes in, and also that's where
Hmm.
taking life for granted. You're just so vibrant and full of life and energetic, and all of a sudden, boom, you take that off for granted,
Yes.
and it's gone. All right. So one person says, why are most doctors who have successfully treated, I didn't know this was true, okay, successfully treated chronic Lyme patients treated like criminals and sometimes even forced out of their practice or have their license to practice taken away? I didn't even know that. Oh, it's terrible.
I didn't either.
Don't make people feel better because Big Pharma wants to have bigger, more expensive drugs to help. No, I don't know. I'm just throwing it
He
out.
says that's part of it. That's part of it. And, you know, it's all about money and fear. And he's also telling me, and I'm saying, when he's telling me this, I'm like, but I thought there, but I feel like this has something to do with the control, something about control, about,
Really?
yeah, there's something. And I'm saying, I thought you said the government wasn't involved, but he's saying it's not so much they're involved with you getting the Lyme disease, but it's about control, about
The treatment.
yeah, and getting you well in that, because he says people, these doctors that know how to heal people from this, cure people from this, a lot of doctors that know how to do things don't last long, because they do know, and they are, it is about fear, but it's about money, and then it's just, you knowing more than somebody else, and they don't like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's been, and we've covered this before, maybe with somebody else, I'm not sure, that there's so many alternative medicine doctors who have been murdered. It's like really,
That's what he's telling me. Yes,
oh God.
yes,
Yeah.
like a lot.
Well, wait a minute. I'm going to ask about, the C60, this controversial treatment with buckyballs. The fullerene balls. I don't know. It's by Dr. Bucky. I don't know. People, you look it up, okay? But okay, does that work? I mean, does that work for anything? Is it dangerous? Tell me about buckyball treatment. It's
I
fun to say
have I
buckyball.
have no idea what
Buckyball.
buckyball treatment is, but Erik is telling me when it's done, whatever it is, it's and he's showing me yellow. So I don't know if that has something to do with it, but he's showing me yellow. He says, he's telling me, um, he's saying, no, it's not dangerous. That's what he's saying. But I feel like it's not dangerous if it's done by following directions, and that. That's what he's showing me.
Does it help
He
any?
said, oh yeah, it does help. Yeah.
Really? Like
Yeah,
what?
but not everybody, and
Whoa.
that's why there's some controversy about it, because some say it does, some say it doesn't, but it's not, there's not a one cure all for everything, you know. Well,
Yeah.
what may work for one might not work for the other.
And what is going on there? I mean, why does it work in some people, not others? Is it some sort of chromosome one person has, or I mean, they don't.
It's their belief system.
Oh, okay. So if they still believe, then
Yes, he said, you know, of course these people desperately want to heal and that, but there's
sure.
an underlying part, he says, that they're questioning it, they're doubting it. It's kind of like, okay, you're my last hope, I hope this works, instead of
Because
going in.
there's so much disappointment in things that they were. I mean, I'm just guessing, promised
Yeah,
would work and didn't. So it's really hard for them to really anchor a belief to it. What does it help in some people? Does it help Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome? I mean, anything else?
he's shown me that it helps to, one is to realign like the energy inside of you, like you're
Oh,
balancing in you. um, I feel like the whatever it is, I don't know if it's a pill or syrup or
I
whatever.
really,
I
I
have no, but he's showing me like when this treatment is being done, you you can feel somewhat off kilter, but it's just realigning you. And I don't know. It's like it's clearing you out. of the stuff that doesn't belong in there. It's like a vacuum almost, is what he makes me feel like.
Can you list like 5 conditions or diseases that we have not covered, or that we have covered actually, that buckyballs could help? I feel like you have to join a team, buckyball team. Yeah, let's dodgeball.
I know when you say that, I think of Bucky's here in Houston,
Oh, I love
in Texas. I
Bucky's.
do too. I do too.
It's the best.
Um, One of the things when you said about that is he mentioned he's talking about inflammation. So
Huh?
with the inflammation, I feel like that can also help with arthritis because with obviously um, and with the inflammation is he's showing me fibromyalgia because there's a lot of inflammation that goes on in there, um, and he says. He says with the Lyme disease, it can help with the symptoms, is what he's saying.
Okay. So, but inflammation, that's interesting because inflammation is pretty much the root of almost every disease, even autism, heart disease, cancer, etc. So,
Wow.
so that could have widespread benefits, I think. What about low dose
Definitely.
naltrexone, which also triples your endorphin release? So it modulates the immune system and combats the pathologic immune response, which again is the root of so many conditions and diseases. Would that help with, Lyme disease, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue syndrome? Those three, the triad.
He says yes. He says, but one of the hard things is finding a doctor to give it to you.
Oh my God, go Google, find the nailed in.
Because he says they don't get the correlation of it, of
Oh,
how
yeah.
so that's why you have our time. But he says yes. He said it will definitely help, and you will have some relief. So when you have relief, you can think clearer,
Yeah.
and 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 you can. It's just like the difference between a foggy day and a non-foggy day. You're able to see clearer and make clear decisions about the direction you want to go. And then he says it makes it easier for you to sit with yourself and start hearing what it is your body really is needing and wanting. Because now with the pain and everything going on, all you hear is you want relief.
Yeah. And any kind of disease or condition, it's your soul using your body to give you a message that something ain't right. Like nearsightedness, it could be that in some people's a signal that they take life for granted, for example.
Well, yes, and some are. He's telling me that they're. He says they're very sensitive to energy, and they just don't know that.
Uh,
And then some of it is about changing how they eat because they're so sensitive, they can't eat some of the foods that they're eating, and some people. And he's not advocating to eat one way or the other, he's saying, but he says, some people can't eat meat because they can feel the vibration of the meat, of how the animal was killed. And so they pick up on that and then they pick up on other things.
Interesting. Now,
Hmm.
we talked about the spiritual basis or reason for people contracting Lyme disease. Is there any difference between that and why people, for spiritual reasons, get fibromyalgia and chronic fatigue syndrome?
He says, he says it's really the same. There's no difference. Like if you're this way, you're going to catch this, or this way, you're going to catch that. Um, but he does tell me the fibromyalgia is a lot about standing up for yourself.
Oh, wow.
That's what he's showing me. It's all about
So,
standing up for yourself
so many of us don't because we have been beaten into us that we're not able, we're not enough. We're not
Yes,
enough to stand up for
yes. And it's about, he says it's a lot of it has to do with that, standing up for yourself,
okay.
appreciating yourself, like really appreciating yourself. And he says, not everybody is, that's not the reason for
Oh,
everyone with it, but he
yeah,
says
it's a big
he's
one.
showing me that's a good portion, but I feel like the way he showed me, there's a spiritual connection. All of it is the same, but yet each person has their own properties with it.
Okay. Now, Anthony Williams, a medical medium. What do you think about him, Eric? Is he legit?
I'm asking Eric because I like him a lot. Erik says yes, he is,
Oh,
but
awesome.
but because he is really good, there's a lot of controversy about him because a lot of people are still trying to prove him wrong.
Well, when the light grows brighter, the dark reacts violently. So that's what we're seeing there. So Anthony Williams, who hears directly from the spirit of compassion, I'm reading this question of somebody's, says that autoimmune diseases are viral based. Some, of course, mixed with toxic heavy metals. And depending on where they are in the body, they create these diseases. Also, because the liver gets overburdened and along with the virus and heavy metals, can no longer filter properly. I'm paraphrasing, blah, blah, blah. And also that juiced fresh celery kills and removes the virus not instantly, but over time. So what does Erik think about that? And can he speak to the spirit of compassion, which has apparently is pure energy and no soul? That is a mouthful, but good luck with that.
I know. Erik is saying yes, 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 yes. He's saying a lot to that and to the spirit of compassion.
That does exist then, huh? And he's channeling it?
Erik says yes, he does. Yes. And Erik says, some of the reasons why we haven't heard, he's showing me how little by little this stuff has been stuff that Anthony talks about has been put into our diet. And and one of the things when you're talking about the metals, he's showing me deodorant, how it has aluminum in it.
Aluminum, yeah. Mm,
Hmm.
okay.
And I can remember when they didn't put aluminum in deodorant.
Yeah. So it was just a deodorant, not an antiperspirant, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So
And yeah. And there's metals in a lot of our foods that we don't realize. And Erik is showing that we cook on a lot of these
mm,
metals, and
yeah.
and we're taking that into our body. So, of course, he says you can go to one extreme or in another. So he says this is not just about following that Anthony, what's his name, Williams?
Yeah.
Anthony Williams. It's not just following his, but it's also listening to your insides when you're taking stuff to
Yeah.
see, like, is this for me? Is this for me? Is this for me? Because I don't feel like there's a one set diet for
Yeah.
anyone, for everybody.
Did you
But
set an intent? Like, I'm not going to get this freaking disease, or I'm free of toxic heavy metals, or whatever. Can you do something like that? I guess you really have to like do that thought creates reality thing, the law of attraction thing, like totally employing all of your senses, your emotions, your thoughts.
Eric says yes, but and then you just have to not take ownership of what everybody else has been saying or doing or not doing. if you can believe with all your heart and soul and just know that you're not picking up any of this and that you're shielded from whatever it is, you can, that can happen because it's all about our belief system, you
Yeah.
know.
Good thought.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, it really, and it's our vibration is what, brings this. And it's funny you talk about Lyme disease because I'm terrified of ticks,
Yeah.
and I've never had a tick on me, but just terrified of ticks. Like I will not go into like a forest or a real heavily wooded area because I'm like so freaked out about ticks. I have no clue. I mean, I've never had a tick on me, but I'm just scared of ticks. So
Oh. Ugh, they're nasty.
so that would for me, I would, because of that fear, I would not go into a wooded environment because a tick would get on me
So what is
because
the
I would attract it.
earth for ticks? I mean, every living creature has a place on Mother Gaia. So I don't know about fire ants though. But what about ticks? What's their purpose here?
Eric says they help. I know because Eric says they help to. Um, they're real good about recycling, and I guess maybe what they eat, Eric, and um, and they also help with um, eating like parasites or whatever it is. He's showing me off of other plant life, and
I guess you're right. I mean, they don't just eat blood. I mean, that's the female, right? They must eat other things, the male. So that's interesting. Okay.
but he's showing me how they eat like parasites or whatever.
Whatever.
So I'm asking Eric. So Eric, when they eat parasites, the parasites he showed me off of plant life, he's saying, it all comes from there, but it just doesn't affect the ticks itself when they're eating this stuff.
Yeah.
Like the stuff that they eat would affect us, but yeah, but he says they eat parasites and stuff like that. It's um,
Okay.
mhm.
Now, somebody wants to know, is there a natural oil or remedy, herbal drink, whatever, that we could try for Lyme disease that we have not, that would work? Or is there a natural oil or whatever product that could be a deterrent to uh, ticks to keep them away? That's a twofer. I had to throw that in there.
Mm, when you said oil, Eric is showing me like a thick oil.
Okay.
Like, and when he says thick oil, I'm like going like castor oil because that stuff's thick.
Yeah.
Um, that is like real thick.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, is it something like that? And he said something thick like that. He said even motor oil or something thick. So and he's showing me like if you're going to go out into the woods or whatever, he says like put an oil like that on, and he's mentioning those kind of oils because they're cheap.
Yeah.
And he's saying if you want to fluff it up, you can add something in it to make it smell good. But and he's showing me how the ticks can't
Penetrate.
grab on.
Well,
Yeah, they can't grab on and latch on to anything with that. Um,
what about
ugh.
Crisco? Crisco.
What about what? I'm sorry.
We can do Crisco, right? Would that work?
He says no because it's not thick.
Oh, it's not thick enough. Oh yeah, because I can imagine.
He says it's not thick, but Eric is telling me, to help relieve the symptoms and stuff is in some states will provide it, but a cannabis can help with relieving that
Oh,
because cannabis helps with, he's showing me with inflammation because he said um, it just helps to relax everything
hmm.
in the way he's showing me. And yeah, that's what he's showing me. Because I'm asking him, well, what happens if you don't use those products? And he's just telling me that would help with that.
Okay. So We just talked about how ticks have some value in the world. And here's the next question. Is there a predator we can introduce to cull the tick population? Get rid of those suckers like a bird or whatever. Is there something that we should, some natural predator to, decrease the tick population?
I know. I'm
We need
asking him,
one
like,
tick though. Yeah.
I'm asking him because I know vultures can eat anything because they have something in their system to where they don't get sick from the dead,
Ugh.
the roadkill. Um,
Oh.
I'm at, Erik says they're not going to mess with that disease. So talking about the ticks, um, he's showing me beetles.
Oh, okay.
Beetles eat that, eat them.
Okay. That's good. All right. So,
Yeah.
before I forget, because it's not on the list, I see, Morgellons disease. That's highly controversial, and I can't remember all the symptoms, but a lot. The major part is that they get these little black threads that come out of their skin. What in the heck is that all about? Is it like aliens that induced or whatever? I don't know. I don't know why I said that, but what is that? Is it a real disease?
Erik says it really is a real disease. And he says the problem with it is a lot of people think they're crazy.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they're crazy.
Yeah, exactly. They think they're crazy for picking these but then the doctors or healthcare providers of any sort, yeah.
They think they're crazy, so they treat it as a psychological issue.
Is it a new disease? Or has it been around forever?
I don't feel like it's been around forever. Erik is showing me it's because of all the crap we got in our
Yeah.
food and drinks and everything. But he's showing me it is real because their skin bleeds from that stuff coming out. And when they do pick it and they get this stuff out, and he says it's very little, small in that, and people collect it and brought it to the doctors, and they right away call in a psychiatrist because they think they're nuts.
Yeah, it sounds kind of fishy, but yeah. So what are these black threads made from? What are they? And what is the etiology? Is it a virus, a bacteria, a prion?
He says it's a lot to do with your autoimmune.
Okay. So it's an
Your
autoimmune disease. What? Okay, go ahead.
He says it has a lot to do with that. It also has to do with, he says you really have to just like clean everything out of your diet when it comes to that, and just clean everything out and just make sure that everything's, he says you almost like have to start from water and then bring in stuff back in, from detergents to soaps to everything, he's telling me. And when you're asking about the threads, that because it almost feels like, and it's just a thread, but he says it almost it's painful when it comes out.
Wow. What's it
And
made of? Is it carbon? Is it connective tissue? I mean, what is it? Little pieces of
it's,
small rays from outer space? I don't know. Just throwing it out there just in case.
he says, he goes, great theory, but it's not from outer space, but
I'm
it's,
kidding.
I know, but he's saying it is made from inside. And when you said carbon, I don't feel like it's carbon, but he's telling me, I guess it's, I don't get carbon. I don't get carbon. And
Okay.
it's the chemistry within you. And and it comes out black. And I guess, and I'm asking him, is it coming out black because it's toxic or whatever it is? He says it's just how it passes through. He goes, it's kind of like our, our poop comes out brown, even though we've had green, yellow, and orange and whatever colors in it, it still comes out brown.
Or
I'm sorry?
except when we have beets or bismuth. Okay, so what is it carbon based? Maybe it's not pure carbon. I mean, what is, and how does it get to the skin and through the skin?
When you said it's, carbon based, it's like a lot of the metals and stuff that are in you that's creating that. He's showing me how it just goes through our body like that. And he makes me feel like it's not really just like a thread or hair coming out. It's kind of, it's not hard, but it's not as soft as a piece of thread, he's telling me.
Oh, okay.
Which is so bizarre.
So it's almost like a metallic.
Yes, that's what he's saying. And yeah. And
so what is it antibody? It's an autoimmune disease, you say, Eric. So, and by the way, I still love you. Is it an antibody against what in our body? An what is this autoantibody attacking?
he said, he's showing me intestines because there's something going on in the intestines that's not filtering through. But he's showing me everything in people's body like that is so out of whack, and they really need to get it in alignment in so many ways. And he's showing me almost like you got to take everything out of your body, like just start with water and then go from there and bring things in. But you have to be real careful what you eat, because you just can't pull things off the shelf.
So is there a particular antigen, like cell surface of a parietal cell? I don't know. I mean, any antigen? And I'm sorry, go ahead with what you were going to say first. Sorry.
I forgot what I was going to say. Go ahead.
God,
about the antigen.
Oh my God. What is this antibody attacking? What antigen? Is it like a receptor on a parietal cells? Like, I don't know. I'm just making up stuff. Is it what? Or I don't know what.
He's showing me it's like it's almost like there's a war inside of you. He's showing me, and it's just attacking. He's showing me it's attacking within
The GI tract.
Yeah, that's what he's showing me. It's attacking, but he also says it affects the hormones. Also, it's affecting your hormones.
So it's an auto immune response to many things. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Oh, anything else about taking care of it besides just starting all over again, water, and reintroducing things? Any other cure or treatment of any sort?
He says there's not a cure known for this. It's such a mystery. But he says,
what about unknown? Go ahead. Yeah.
you really need to get back to like what we would say basics, because he showed me you really need to get into prayer time, meditation time, whatever you want to call it. Get back into just eating the purest form of foods, because this has a lot to do with it, and not just that, but when you're doing that, you're helping to balance yourself. Stress is another big one. You really have to eliminate stress, because he says that affects your autoimmune is your stress. And just
yes,
he says there are some things on the internet where people have done their own research and what has helped them and stuff, but he says there's so little on there because people don't believe anybody.
Yeah, it'll get there. So what is the spiritual reason why people would contract this disease? It's like, I'm wired from stress, so this little wire's coming. I mean, I just guessed. I don't know what I'm doing, but go ahead.
He says Because that's what gets your attention.
Mm, I would think so.
That's what
You
gets
think
your
about
attention.
Epstein-Barr syndrome, a lot of times, for a long time, they thought that was just a bunch of bull, but it can cause all sorts of different kind of chronic problems.
Yes, it can. Yes,
Lymphoma, by the way, Burkitt's lymphoma.
yes, he said yes, it can. They now know that it's more serious than what it what they thought it was years ago.
Yeah,
And he said yes, but now there's a more people who are diagnosed with it aren't diagnosed with it as a he says as a kissing disease. It's diagnosed as something else and they take it more serious.
good, good, good. Any advice about people with EBV, Epstein-Barr syndrome?
He says he goes he doesn't want to sound like a broken record, but he says this also has to do with the autoimmune.
Oh yeah, oh definitely. I totally agree. And that
Yeah.
the same thing is like eating the purest of the pure and all that kind of stuff.
Well, he says, Mom, he says they put so much synthetic stuff in our foods.
Yeah,
We cannot but get sick from this stuff.
yeah. Okay. So some people, this one blog member said a magnesium deficiency was detected in her, and maybe, when she started taking magnesium supplements, she became functional again, and she had fibromyalgia. Does magnesium? I think a lot of people are deficient in things like magnesium and zinc, especially. So, what are those two things behind? Is it behind fibromyalgia and other diseases?
Um, he says part, but there's more to it than just that because then everyone could take magnesium and it'd be over with. But
Yeah.
he says yes, a lot of us do have a severe deficiency in magnesium, zinc, and vitamin D,
Mm,
and
yeah.
but a lot of us don't know it because insurance doesn't cover blood work to cover a lot of
Yeah.
what's going on. But he says you don't have to go get your blood work to see if you are low in it. He says go get some. He says
It's really hard to overdose on it, except for
that's what he's saying. He said you're not going to want to overdose on it.
Erik. No, but seriously, there are certain fat soluble vitamins that you can overdose on, like ADEK, ADEK,
Yes.
vitamin K.
But he
Okay,
says
yeah,
you would have to take an awful lot of magnesium and you
yeah,
wouldn't be able to stomach it, he's showing me.
yeah.
But
Well,
he says, but that is good for people like helps with leg cramps and stuff. And he says, it has, but he says, go try it. If you're feeling, he says it's really good also for people with depression.
yeah, and zinc really helps fertility issues and acne, skin issues. All right, so
Yes.
somebody talks about this. I have never heard of this. The Royal Rife, RIFE machine. Does it cure diseases like cancer? I never heard of it.
I didn't either. Um, he says you heal yourself.
Yeah, so no. The answer is no.
He
And
says
maybe your intention, like this machine is going to cure me, is maybe that's what it does.
it can help you get to the place where you need to be. It can help with that, but you heal you.
Okay.
Machines don't heal you. Medicine don't heal you. You heal you.
It's too much work.
It
Gee,
is.
just, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
It is a lot of work.
It is a lot of work. All right, so Ooh, this is interesting. Oh, this is what I was referring to before. I think we already answered it kind of. The government engaged in biological warfare experiments on Plum Island off the coast of Connecticut, including releasing infected ticks onto the island to study the effects on birds and animals. This is all documented and laid out in the meticulously researched book Lab 257. Ooh. Can you confirm that the Borrelia burgdorferi, I hate saying that, bacteria that cause Lyme disease was included in these experiments, or was the bacteria accidentally released from the lab through faulty ventilation syndrome, blah, blah, blah. Either way, will the government ever admit, oh, forget that.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. So is there a truth to that on Plum Island?
He said, yes, there's truth, but he says the intent was not to go there and create havoc
Yeah.
like it sounds. But when you send people to do stuff that are inexperienced at what they do and don't, and I feel like they didn't even really know what they had in their hands. Um, but was it an intentional, let's go do this and kill and do this? Erik says no, it wasn't like that. It wasn't a malicious thing. Erik says no. And he says that's why he said earlier the government really didn't just do this, because the ticks also do carry a disease. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a protection thing is what he's saying. But did they do stuff? Erik says, of course they do stuff like that. Of course.
Yeah, but I don't think they intended to spread Lyme disease to the parts of the human population with fibromyalgia. And
Erik says no. Erik says no. That
why would
no.
they
He
do that?
says
They were trying to see how it affected birds and other animals. That's kind of weird. Why would they do that? What were they trying to achieve? Or maybe they just put ticks out and didn't know they were infected with this thing, and just wanted to see what. I don't know. You tell me, Erik.
Erik says they're always preparing and wanting to do stuff to he's like protect, for the next war.
Oh, ooh, ooh. Okay. Anything you can tell me about ALS, amyotrophic lateral sclerosis? Oh God, when I say that, I sound so much smarter than I really am. It's true. But anyway, Lou Gehrig's disease. Anything that we can prevent it, that will help prevent it, and anything that would be good for treating it.
Erik is telling me that I feel like they're working on a test to see if they either could get it or have it or are gonna get it or something, or maybe they're working on like a gene or something, like how they can test to see if you have that,
The
what is it,
risk.
that Brax or something. I don't forget that with women to see if they have that. And he says they're working on something with that,
Wow.
because that has affected a lot of famous people.
Yeah. Of course.
And
That's how it gets attention.
yes, and he says they signed up for that,
Yeah.
for but he says he's telling me there is like stem cell treatment.
Okay.
But this stuff is so expensive.
Yeah. Well, what can us little people do that come down with this disease? What's our best option? I could be low dose naltrexone. That's costs less than a penny a day, and it is, I think it's an autoimmune kind of inflammatory kind of disease. But
He
or
says
what?
the thing of it is that when most people find out they have it, they've had it for a while.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like and people say, God, in 6 months he or she was,
Yeah.
bedridden, but they had it way before they were ever diagnosed with it. It's almost like a sleeper type
Mm.
um, disease, where you don't feel nothing until and then he says it's kind of like lupus. You don't know you have lupus, and because it's so hard to detect, in that it gets misdiagnosed for a lot of things.
Oh, my goodness.
But um, but he does say definitely give it a try, because you don't know what it
Definitely
can.
not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when they have this genetic test, whatever, should most people get that test from at a certain age or whatever to make to see if they're at risk, or only a certain subset of the population, like with the BRCA breast cancer gene or the BRAF gene for melanoma?
Erik says yes, that we should all get that test, when they start making it, yes, because then we can change things about ourselves on how we do things, not to get into a panic, but just do things differently. And
Is that mostly nutrition based that you're talking about?
it is nutrition, but it's also, how we are with our own selves, because when we eat nutritionally well,
Yeah.
then we treat ourselves better. That automatically comes in also.
That's so true. It's like a way of pampering yourself. Only two
It
more
is.
questions and then we'll close. What's the spiritual basis for polycystic ovary syndrome? Cross it on my list.
Erik is saying it's a denial of your feminine self, denial of you being a woman.
I bet that's so true because they get hirsutism, hair growth and all that kind of stuff. Wow. All right. This is the last one. Are there any cures we don't know about for these or any other diseases that you want to share with us?
Erik says we've talked about this before, he said, but there are cures for cancer and stuff like that. It's just,
Yeah.
you know, um, he says there's cure for AIDS, there's cure for a lot of things, but
Well, don't be holding one to that. Come on, share
but
that with us.
but it's just it all comes down to money and control, he says, about um, giving that out. Like, oh my God, where would MD Anderson be? you
Yeah.
know
Uh,
and that's why he's saying we have to be our own.
Best advocate for sure. And we got
Yes, our own police person in this, and
what
us taking control. And he says, and this is part of what it's about us taking back our control, because
that's
there are people
overarching.
wanting to control us. And he says this is a way of us taking back our control of our own self.
So that again is probably the big overarching lesson, to take our control back from this little oligarchy that's so powerful in our lives.
He said
Um,
he says that's exactly it, Mom. That's exactly it.
yeah, I think you just gave it to me because I don't come up with that kind of stuff. All right, so you guys, Denise Ramon is coming to my house pretty soon here. I will keep you guys posted if Facebook ever lets me post a link again. And we're going to have a group panel reading with her, Veronica, and Michelle. It's going to be so much fun at my
I can't
place.
wait.
I can't wait. And y'all check her out at deniseramon.com, which I will put right here. Love you guys. I love you, Erik. I love you, Denise.
Love you. And Erik says, I love you, Mom. He's giving you
Love
a big
you.
squeeze.
Bye.
Bye.